13-year-old girl vanishes into thin air on her walk home from school, leaving behind a trail of questions that would torment her family for decades. This isn't the opening of a crime novel. It's the stark reality of Megumi Yokota's abduction by North Korean agents in 1977, a case that would eventually crack open one of the most chilling conspiracy theories of the 20th century. What began as whispers of shadowy boats and rogue operatives along Japan's coastline morphed into a confirmed state-sponsored operation, shattering disbelief and exposing a regime's ruthless audacity. The North Korean abductions of Japanese citizens stand as a haunting testament to how truth can lurk beneath dismissed suspicions, demanding a closer look at the motives, methods, and mysteries that define this dark saga. The timeline of these abductions stretches back to the late 1960s, with the most intense waves striking between 1977 and 1983. North Korean operatives zeroed in on Japan's western coast, an expanse of secluded beaches and quiet towns perfect for covert landings. Small, unmarked boats would glide ashore under cover of night, their crews trained to snatch targets with surgical precision. Victims were often alone or in pairs, vulnerable to the swift brutality of these raids. Yasushi Chimura and Fuki Hamamoto, a young couple enjoying a seaside date in Fukui Prefecture, disappeared without a trace in 1978. Kaoru Matsuki and his girlfriend met a similar fate on a Niigata beach in 1980. No screams, no witnesses, just empty spaces where people once stood. For years, these vanishings confounded Japanese authorities. No ransom notes surfaced, no bodies washed ashore, and no clear pattern emerged to suggest a domestic culprit. Families clung to hope, while investigators grasped at straws. The notion that a foreign government, let alone the insular regime of North Korea, could be orchestrating such acts seemed absurd, a theory relegated to the fringes of Cold War paranoia. Yet, the clues were there, fleeting glimpses of suspicious vessels, murmurs from defectors, and a growing unease among coastal communities. The abductions didn't discriminate by age or status. Megumi Yokota was a schoolgirl, while others, like Shuichi Ichikawa and Rumiko Masamoto, were young adults snatched from everyday moments. The veil began to lift in 1987, when a captured North Korean agent named Kim Hyun-hui dropped a bombshell. Arrested after bombing a South Korean airliner, she revealed that her training in Japanese language and customs came from Yeiko Taguchi, a woman abducted from Tokyo in 1978. This wasn't a random crime. It was a deliberate thread in a broader tapestry. Taguchi, like others, had been forcibly taken to North Korea to serve a chilling purpose, molding spies into perfect mimics of Japanese society. The confession linked disparate cases, turning a conspiracy theory into a grim reality that Japan could no longer ignore. North Korea's motives were as cold as they were strategic. The regime needed native speakers to refine its espionage network, particularly for operations targeting Japan and South Korea. Abductees were thrust into a dystopian existence, teaching agents the nuances of Japanese dialects, etiquette, and daily life. Megumi Yokota, barely a teenager when taken, spent her captivity schooling operatives in the very culture she'd been torn from. Others faced even darker fates. Hitomi Soga, abducted in 1978 alongside her mother, was coerced into marrying Charles Jenkins, a U.S. Army defector stranded in North Korea. Some victims' identities were harvested, passports, birth records, and personal histories repurposed to arm spies with credible cover stories. The mechanics of these operations reveal a chilling efficiency. North Korean agents, often elite members of the Reconnaissance General Bureau, relied on speed and secrecy. Small teams would scout targets, striking when conditions aligned, isolated locations, minimal witnesses, and proximity to the sea for a quick escape. Boats equipped with muffled engines ferried captives across the Sea of Japan to North Korea's eastern ports, where they vanished into a labyrinth of military compounds and training facilities. The precision suggests years of planning, honed by a regime that saw human lives as tools in a geopolitical game. In 2002, the world got its first official glimpse into this abyss. During a summit between Kim Jong-il and Japanese Prime Minister Junichiro Koizumi, North Korea admitted to abducting 13 Japanese citizens. The admission was staggering, not just for its candor, but for its casual brutality. 8, including Megumi Yokota, were declared dead, while 5 survivors, including Hitomi Soga, were allowed to return. Yet the details unraveled under scrutiny. Death certificates bore inconsistent dates. Ashes offered for Megumi failed DNA verification. Defectors later claimed she lived well beyond her alleged 1986 death, possibly as late as the 1990s, raising doubts about the regime's narrative. The numbers remain a battleground. Japan officially lists 17 confirmed abductees, but the true tally could stretch into the hundreds. Defector testimonies, coastal disappearance records, and unresolved cases fuel speculation of a far larger operation. Charles Robert Jenkins, who spent decades in North Korea after defecting, wrote of meeting other foreigners, some potentially Japanese, in the regime's grip. South Korea estimates over 500 of its own citizens were abducted post-Korean War, hinting at a global playbook. Victims from Thailand, Lebanon, Romania, and France have surfaced in reports, suggesting North Korea's reach extended beyond Asia, a web of kidnappings masked by diplomatic isolation. The human toll cuts deeper than statistics. Shigeru and Saki Yokota, Megumi's parents, transformed their grief into a crusade, spearheading a movement that reverberates across Japan. Their tireless advocacy birthed groups like the National Association for the Rescue of Japanese Abducted by North Korea, which rallies families and presses for answers. For survivors like Yasushi Chimura and Fuki Hamamoto, who returned in 2002, reintegration brought relief but no closure. Decades of their lives had been stolen. The emotional wreckage spans generations, with children born to abductees in North Korea caught in a limbo of identity and allegiance. Politically, the abductions have carved a fault line in Japan-North Korea relations. Leaders like Shinzo Abe leveraged the issue to galvanize public support, tightening sanctions and elevating the abductees' plight to a national cause. Diplomatic talks have faltered. North Korea's 2014 promise to reinvestigate dissolved into silence, leaving families grasping at rumors. A 2019 report claimed Minoru Tanaka, another deceased abductee, was spotted alive in Pyongyang, but verification remains elusive. Each lead reignites hope, only to be smothered by the regime's opacity. The methods of concealment are as revealing as the abductions themselves. North Korea's propaganda machine churned out denials, while its bureaucracy buried evidence in a maze of falsified records. Defectors describe a culture of fear. Abductees were monitored, their lives scripted to prevent rebellion or escape. Some, like Keru Hajuik, endured years of isolation before being trotted out as proof of the regime's mercy in 2002. The survivors' accounts paint a picture of psychological warfare, where compliance was survival and resistance was futile. Beyond Japan, the abductions echo a broader pattern of North Korean audacity. The regime's kidnapping of South Korean filmmaker Shin Sang-ok in 1978 to bolster its propaganda industry mirrors the calculated cynicism of the Japanese cases. European victims, including a French woman reportedly taken in the 1970s, suggest a willingness to test international boundaries. These acts weren't impulsive, they were pillars of a survival strategy, propping up a state that thrives on secrecy and subversion. The conspiracy's evolution from theory to fact is a masterclass in skepticism's vindication. Early whispers of North Korean involvement were mocked as fanciful, drowned out by the absence of concrete proof. Yet persistence, through defectors' testimonies, survivors' stories, and families' relentlessness, dragged the truth into the light. The 1987 Kim Hyun-hui revelation was the spark, the 2002 admission was the blaze. What once seemed implausible now stands as a stark warning. Regimes unchecked by accountability can turn the unthinkable into routine. Unresolved questions gnaw at the edges of this saga. How many were taken? Japan's 17 is a floor, not a ceiling. Defectors like On Myong-jin, a former North Korean guard, have claimed knowledge of dozens more. What became of those labeled dead? The regime's flimsy evidence invites doubt, while sightings and whispers hint at hidden survivors. Why did North Korea target such a diverse pool? Teenagers, couples, mothers, when language training alone could have been sourced elsewhere. The answers lie locked in Pyongyang, guarded by a system that profits from silence. The abduction's legacy ripples through Japan's psyche. Annual vigils light up coastal towns, where families still scan the horizon for lost loved ones. The issue shapes policy, with lawmakers citing it to justify missile defense systems and hardline stances. Culturally, it's a wound that festers, films, books, and exhibitions keep the abductees' faces alive, a reminder of vulnerability in a modern age. For North Korea, it's a calculated gamble that paid off. Decades of espionage gains outweigh the diplomatic fallout. This isn't a tale of closure, it's a demand for reckoning. Families wait, governments posture, and the truth remains half-buried. The North Korean abductions of Japanese citizens expose the frailty of disbelief, proving that the wildest conspiracies can harden into history. Every detail uncovered is a tribute to those who refuse to let the shadows win. If this descent into a real-life conspiracy gripped you, drop a like, share your thoughts below, and subscribe for more unmaskings of the world's darkest enigmas, because the pursuit of truth thrives on voices like yours.